This is the sad tale of Haruaki, a rookie teacher so weak even his shadow looks braver than him. After crashing and burning in his first job, he's desperate for a fresh start. He gets a new teaching gig, hoping to finally get it right. But nope, life throws him into a school full of supernatural freaks called ghouls. He's the only human there, walking around like a lost puppy in a den of wolves. Bro's out here trying to teach algebra to creatures that probably eat teachers for lunch. The story begins with Haruaki, a new teacher, on his way to start at a different school. He feels excited about the opportunity. The city looks beautiful, bustling with restaurants and shops, and Haruaki enjoys the sights. Spotting the school from afar, he confirms its location on his map. It looks charming, and he feels delighted. Haruaki recalls his first day as a high school teacher years ago, when nerves got the better of him. A student's threat left him shaken, and within half an hour, he fled the school and didn't return, spending a year at home consumed by shame and self-doubt. Now determined to overcome his past, he takes this new job with a sense of optimism, noting the school's appealing look and liking their uniform. Upon arriving, Haruaki is greeted warmly by the principal, who expresses gratitude for his family's past help and hopes Haruaki will stay to teach the students. Haruaki promises to do his best. The principal calls him a hero and leads him to his classroom, where excited students await. Haruaki feels ready to tackle the challenges ahead. But as he steps into the classroom, he freezes. The students look like monsters with supernatural powers, ghouls. Shocked, he backs out, apologizing and thinking he's entered the wrong room. The principal catches his reaction and asks if he understands what's happening. Haruaki, still reeling, admits he doesn't and demands to know what's going on. The principal explains the students were just arguing. Haruaki, still rattled, insists he saw ghouls everywhere and demands to know what kind of place this is. The principal calmly reveals it's a special school for ghouls from across Japan, and Haruaki is the first human teacher to work there. Panicking, Haruaki tries to flee, but the principal appears everywhere, casually reminding him he's also a ghoul. He grabs Haruaki's hand, attempting to lead him back to the classroom. Haruaki shouts, pulling away, and a strange, glowing star-shaped circle burns the principal's hand, forcing him to let go. The principal jokes that maybe Haruaki wasn't cut out to teach and suggests a bakery job instead. With a cane tap, he nudges Haruaki back into the classroom. Terrified, Haruaki hides under a desk, silent as the students look around in confusion. 40 minutes pass and whispers fill the room. Is he dead or just not coming out? Finally, a student named Sano approaches and asks what's wrong. Haruaki admits he's human. Sano notes Haruaki seems stuck and offers to help. When he pulls Haruaki out, Haruaki's clothes rip apart. The girls scream while the short boy, Mizuka, accuses Sano of misusing his powers. Sano insists it was an accident. Embarrassed, Haruaki thinks he's never been in a situation this absurd. The principal calls Haruaki over and advises him not to fear the students. Haruaki clarifies it's not their role as students that scares him, it's their ability to transform into ghouls. The principal reassures him, offering a book about ghouls to help him understand them, along with another book that looks questionable. When Haruaki asks if they're both for him, the principal smirks, confirming and promises a surprise gift of school uniforms if Haruaki performs well. Feeling encouraged, Haruaki returns to the classroom with newfound excitement and confidence. Introducing himself as Haruaki, a human, he surprises the students. They react with disbelief, questioning how a human could be among them. Sano, with a sarcastic smirk, asks if Haruaki plans to cry. Haruaki silently notes Sano might be a challenge but keeps his composure. Starting roll call, Haruaki uses the opportunity to learn about each student's powers. When he calls for Sano, there's no response, which makes him suspicious. Choosing not to press, he moves on. Calling for Hijita, Mizuka explains he's absent, attending his sister's wedding. Haruaki thanks him and asks his name, but before Mizuka answers, Hijita bursts in, declaring his return and bearing gifts. Confused, Haruaki asks who he is. After Hijita introduces himself, he learns Haruaki is human and immediately attacks him, knocking him down. Mizuka intervenes, explaining Hijita resents humans because his ghoul brother married one, leaving him bitter. Haruaki, stunned, wonders why Hijita's anger isn't directed at his sister. Using his mud-manipulating powers, Hijita traps Haruaki in a pit, taunting him to leave if he dislikes being attacked. Stuck and humiliated, Haruaki refuses to back down. He opens up about his struggles in his previous school, where bullying and isolation drove him away. Becoming a teacher, he explains, was his way to reconnect and help students. Apologizing for being human, he admits it's beyond his control. His sincerity moves the students. Determined to continue, Haruaki resumes roll call and calls for Zashiki, only to learn she hasn't attended since winter. Mentioning the upcoming class photo, he decides to convince her to return. Hijita warns that if Zashiki hears he's coming, she'll refuse outright. Undeterred, Haruaki heads to the girls' dorm with Sano and Mizuka, who caution him to be careful. Unfamiliar territory like this could lead to even more trouble. Haruaki insists on bringing Zashiki back for the class photo, hoping it might change his luck. Sano doubts him, but Haruaki ignores it and checks the book for information about her. Mizuka suggests looking himself up too. They discover Mizuka's race transforms if paper or nuts are placed on their heads. Haruaki questions the book's accuracy and Mizuka laughs, calling out dated 200 years old. They reach her door, but she refuses to open after they knock. Mizuka places paper on his head, transforms into smoke, and slips through the keyhole. Haruaki and Sano feel uneasy about the method. Inside, Mizuka triggers a magical trap with 300 strikes, forcing him out. A warning note slides out, telling them to leave. Frustrated, Haruaki resolves to keep trying. Soon, Mizuka gets a message showing Zashiki accusing the human teacher of trying to break in. Sano grumbles about students oversharing online. They call to her again, but she tells them to leave. When Haruaki places his hand on the door, a star appears, unlocking it. Mizuka is shocked, but Haruaki brushes it off as luck. Inside, Zashiki is engrossed in a video game, claiming she's busy saving the world. She scolds them for barging in. Sano questions why she's hiding, while Mizuka recognizes the game as Hijita's. Zashiki admits she got hooked after finishing it quickly. The group criticizes her for avoiding class over gaming. Haruaki kneels, pleading for her return. Zashiki mocks him, pointing out he's wiping his face with her underwear. Mortified, Haruaki apologizes, but Zashiki accuses him of carelessness and kicks him away. Mizuka defends Haruaki as kind despite his flaws and urges her to return. Offended but determined, Haruaki insists she can enjoy games later but won't get another chance of school life. He adds her uniform would suit her, causing her to blush. The next day, Haruaki wonders if Zashiki will show up. Meanwhile, the ghoul teachers question the principal about hiring a human. The principal explains that humans and ghouls once coexisted, and Haruaki's family, known for punishing wrongdoers, was pivotal in maintaining balance. Haruaki inherited exorcism powers, making him strong around ghouls despite his struggles among humans. The principal assures them Haruaki's presence will benefit everyone. Outside, Sano overhears and realizes it was Haruaki's power that opens Zashiki's door. True to her words, Zashiki returns to school wearing a red coat over her uniform. Haruaki tolerates the coat, but is shocked to see trousers under her skirt. He scolds her for breaking school rules, and Sano teases him about his uniform fixation, leaving Haruaki flustered. Eventually, Haruaki manages to get the class together for a photo. Just as they celebrate, Haruaki slips on a water pipe, gets sprayed, and tumbles into the garden with Sano. He wonders why the return of Zashiki hasn't brought him the good luck he hoped for. Zashiki approaches, pointing out her bad luck when wearing red as noted in the Ghoul's book. She warns Haruaki that he's now stuck between two unlucky ghouls. Sano, standing behind her, asks about the second one, and suddenly performs a suplex on Haruaki, sending him crashing to the ground again. Later, Haruaki goes to a restaurant with Miki and Hatanaka, who are treating him to a meal. Haruaki admires the food while the teachers express their happiness about spending time together. During the meal, Hatanaka prevents Miki from drinking alcohol, taking away his glass each time. When Haruaki asks why, Hatanaka explains they need to stay rested since school activities continue tomorrow. Miki reminds them that sports day and student medical checkups will make it a tiring day. He also mentions that a student often ends up in a hospital due to the strain. Haruaki sighs, already dreading the upcoming workload. The next day, Haruaki reminds his class to follow instructions carefully during the physical exams. The students ask quirky questions about growth, weight, and unusual traits. Nervously, Mizuka asks about being a mutant. Haruaki lightheartedly assures her while hinting at his own quirks. After class, Hatanaka assigns Haruaki to help with the eye exams. He hands Haruaki a paper with instructions and urges him to follow them quickly. Haruaki grabs the paper and hurries off to assist. Haruaki oversees the eye exams with a doctor on the phone. Yudo is the first student, and his vision is recorded as 130. Haruaki, unsure if this is good for mutants, asks for clarification. Yudo, upset, complains about a slight vision drop from last year. Afterward, Haruaki reports to Hatanaka, who instructs him to escort Mizuka and the cat girl to the doctor's room for checkups. At the doctor's room, they are asked to enter a small, enchanted cage where they transform into small animals. The doctor, a foreign specialist, announces they need health vaccinations. Panicked, the cat girl and Mizuka protest, feeling punished rather than treated. The doctor insists vaccinations are mandatory for all animal mutants, including teachers. Miki arrives, dragging Hatanaka along, and announces he will also get a shot. Both are placed in the cage, where the mutants attempt an unsuccessful escape. Miki tells the doctor to proceed, while Hatanaka grumbles about unpaid debts. Haruaki steps in, trying to calm the students and teachers. He reassures them the shots are harmless. A student asks Haruaki to distract him, and Haruaki agrees. However, as the doctor approaches, the mutant bolts, causing the needle to land in Haruaki's head. Haruaki screams and bandages himself, worried about the effects. The doctor reassures him, explaining the injection is safe and tested on humans. Haruaki is shocked by the revelation that the doctor experiments on humans and refuses to try any further treatments. He turns to the students, declaring the process complete. Miki, however, reminds him that heights still need to be measured. They approach Daidara, a giant mutant. Miki explains that such mutants help shape landscapes like mountains and lakes. Haruaki reluctantly climbs Deidara to measure his height after losing a rock-paper-scissors game to Mickey. Frustrated, he mutters about his bad luck as he climbs. A gust of wind throws him off balance and his schoolbook slips from his hand. Panicked, Haruaki loses his grip and begins to fall, shouting that he doesn't want to die, especially without his beloved school uniform. Sano catches Haruaki mid-fall, scolding him not to talk about dying. Haruaki thanks him and asks why he is there. Sano explains he dislikes checkup day and was hiding. Together, they measure the mutant student, whose height is revealed to be 130 meters. The student proudly claims to be taller than the Statue of Liberty. Mickey leaves to check on other students, leaving Haruaki to climb down alone. Haruaki suggests Sano carry him and Sano agrees. Just as Haruaki tries to lower himself onto Sano's shoulder, Deidara sneezes, sending them flying. They crash through a window into the principal's office, landing on the principal. Sano complains about his string of bad luck since Haruaki's arrival. Haruaki retorts that Sano is the one who brings bad luck, but Sano blames Haruaki. The principal tells them to quiet down. Haruaki apologizes and offers to pay for the window, but the principal, dismissing the offer, assigns him to clean the school swimming pool with the students. On the way, Deidara apologizes for the sneeze and Haruaki reassures him it's fine. Some students grumble about the task, while others look forward to swimming. Haruaki learns they no longer visit the ocean due to strange creatures and instead rely on the pool, though they've never used it for bathing. When they arrive, the pool is in a horrifying state, filthy and resembling a graveyard. Some students suggest destroying it instead of cleaning. Haruaki begins poking at the water with a stick, determined to try cleaning despite its condition. Sano warns that whatever lies in the pool could harm nature if released, but Haruaki dismisses the concern, claiming nature will recover. Hijida enthusiastically rushes to the other side of the pool to start cleaning. Sano warns him about the slippery surface, but Hijida slips and falls into the muddy pool, beginning to sink. The others panic, thinking he is drowning or poisoned, but Sano calmly explains it's just mud and Hijida will dissolve temporarily. Hijida reemerges, gasping for air, looking completely different, with blonde hair and an unusual aura. The students stare in shock, wondering how he ended up like this. One observes that everything about him, including his abilities and personality, seems different. Sano dismisses it, calling his look ridiculous. One classmate, irritated, pushes Hijida back into the pool, joking they'll blame the toxic water for his disappearance. Meanwhile, Mizuka starts cleaning, but small creatures emerge from the water, grabbing at him and dragging him closer. The students rush to help, but the creatures prove too strong. Mizuka panics, joking that if he survives, he might turn into someone as tall and handsome as Hijida. Sano intervenes, striking the creatures and forcing them to retreat. He rescues Mizuka, who tearfully thanks him, calling him his best friend. Sano reassures him and jokingly says he'll keep Mizuka just as he is, perfect in his own way. A nearby injured monster mocks the group, calling them dogs. Sano threatens another kick, but the monster warns that its boss is still in the pool. Suddenly, the water stirs and a giant fish with a human-like face emerges, declaring itself the ruler of the pool and vowing to protect it as sacred ground. The fish attacks, swallowing a shapeshifter cat that had transformed to fight it. The students panic as the fish taunts them, claiming it will devour everyone. Haruaki looks to Sano for guidance. Sano calmly approaches, observing that the fish is simply hungry. He kicks the fish and signals Deidara, who transforms into his giant form and restrains the fish. Overpowered, the fish surrenders, asking what they intend to do and even offering itself as food. Deidara refuses, saying it wouldn't taste good. Mizuka proposes relocating the fish to the school's biology lab aquarium, promising it regular meals, peace, and potential companionship. The fish hesitates but agrees, touched by the offer. Haruaki orders the students to resume cleaning the pool. Deidara suddenly loses his balance and falls, causing a massive splash. Impact destroys the pool entirely, leaving a mess. Later, Haruaki approaches the principal with a small kiddie pool and tells him to use this instead. The principal becomes angry and declares that the losses caused by his actions will be deducted from his salary. Haruaki feels disheartened, realizing there will be no swimming for the rest of the year. Meanwhile, the large fish and her smaller companions are relocated to a clean and safe aquarium in the biology lab, giving them a fresh start in a new home. The next day, Mickey invites Haruaki to observe his class, sparking excitement in Haruaki, who sees it as a chance to grow as a teacher. Mickey explains that the class focuses on the history and lifestyles of ghouls, an unconventional sociology topic. Nervous yet eager, Haruaki sits at the back to avoid disrupting the lesson. The students whisper among themselves, debating Haruaki's reputation. Some doubt his skills, while others fear his potential power. Haruaki, undeterred, resolves to prove his worth. During the class, Mickey asks for homework submissions. Zashiki admits she didn't do hers and is given detention. Hijida, trying to avoid trouble, lies about leaving his homework in the dormitory. Mickey, unfazed, keeps the class focused and transitions into a lecture about ghouls. He categorizes them into humanoid, animal, and inanimate object ghouls, capturing the class's attention with ease. Haruaki, observing, admires Miki's ability to engage students, a stark contrast to his own struggles. Miki shifts the topic to the magical abilities of ghouls, explaining that some powers require specific actions, while others, called will-based ghouls, release magic uncontrollably. To demonstrate action-based magic, Miki reveals that his power is triggered by alcohol. The students disapprove, but Haruaki, curious, encourages him, earning disapproving stares from the class. Miki takes a small sip of alcohol, explaining that it temporarily grants him the power of a raging ogre. To demonstrate, he punches the green board, shattering it effortlessly. The class is stunned, but Miki, ignoring their reactions, drinks an entire pot of alcohol instead. Sano explains that during the previous year, when Miki transformed, the incident caused significant damage to the school. Miki becomes increasingly unstable, entering a berserk state. When Yudo attempts to fetch help, Miki blocks his escape by squeezing an orange into his eyes, leaving him crying on the floor. Sano urges Haruaki to use his exorcism powers to stop Miki's drunken rampage. Haruaki hesitates, doubting his abilities, but Sano's encouragement convinces him to act. Miki suddenly kicks Haruaki, sending him flying through the classroom door. As Hatanaka notices the commotion, Miki attacks again, nearly pushing Haruaki off the terrace. Sano shouts for Haruaki to use his powers, but Haruaki's uncertainty holds him back until Sano adds a bold incentive involving Zashiki. Motivated, Haruaki decides to act. Drawing on his exorcism powers, he summons a rain of mana, dispelling Miki's magical drunkenness and returning him to normal. The class watches in awe, amazed by Haruaki's potential. Hijira arrives late, holding his completed homework, only to find the classroom in ruins. Later, Sano talks with Haruaki and learns that he is reluctant to use his powers, preferring to keep them hidden. Haruaki shares his wish for a normal school life where he can enjoy himself. That night, Hijira, Zashiki, and the Ogata twins sneak into the school to retrieve confiscated items like game consoles and phones. Their plan takes a turn when Haruaki on patrol catches them. Instead of punishing them, Haruaki leads them to the safe, surprising them with his apparent support. As they gather in the office, a magical cage suddenly falls, trapping them. It is revealed to be a trap set by Haruaki, Miki, and Hatanaka to catch the students red-handed. However, one of the Ogata twins uses his wind powers to break them free, revealing that the twins are thunder and winged gods exiled from heaven. Their divine magic makes the seals ineffective, allowing them to escape easily. The students flee from their teachers, prompting Hatanaka to let Miki drink a small amount of alcohol and chase after them. Miki eventually catches up with the students, but the other Ogata twin uses his thunder magic. The strike misses its target and accidentally hits Haruaki, who is approaching from behind. Panicking, Haruaki rings the fire alarm. The Ogata twin, with wind powers, uses his abilities to stop the fire, but the relief is short-lived. Looking out the window, they realize the fire department has already arrived. The students, along with their freaky teachers, quickly scatter and hide. They finally find cover in some nearby bushes. Haruaki announces to his class that Ghoul's TV will interview him as the first human teacher at the Ghoul School. He shares that the feature will be on Ghoul's Autobiographies, a famous documentary series. The students react with shock, recognizing the show's prestige. Some express doubts, joking about Haruaki's timid nature and quirks, suggesting he might embarrass himself. Their blunt comments make him reconsider participating, but they ultimately agree to support him, determined to help him appear competent. Hatanaka reminds Haruaki to avoid damaging the school walls during class. Shortly after, the TV crew arrives, led by a butterfly ghoul director and her large assistant. Haruaki feels nervous but listens attentively as the director outlines the day's plan, which includes an interview and a tour of the school. Feeling encouraged, Haruaki agrees enthusiastically. The students, eager to appear on TV, prepare with excitement. During his lesson, Haruaki realizes he accidentally brought his personal book on school uniforms instead of the textbook. Panicking, he sneaks out to retrieve the correct book, but makes a small hole in the wall in the process. Hatanaka notices and silently questions his odd behavior. After the first segment, it's clear things didn't go smoothly. The director suggests moving to the next activity, practicing scare tactics in public places. Haruaki agrees, inviting Hatanaka to join. Hatanaka instructs the students to focus on creating fear and panic, emphasizing the importance of being frightening. Haruaki volunteers to participate, but Hatanaka clarifies that he is only there to observe. Hatanaka explains to Haruaki that traveling by sea to the city would take 10 hours. He then reveals the principal created a magical room for instant transport. Haruaki, frustrated he didn't know earlier, admits he would have used it to escape on his first day. Before the scare training begins, Hatanaka instructs students to avoid scaring vulnerable groups like children, the elderly, pregnant women, and those with health issues. He selects Yudagawa and Yudo as the first pair. They successfully scare 2 boys away, earning Hatanaka's approval. He then calls for Mujina and Hijira. Mujina and Hijira's attempt goes wrong when an elderly woman bravely throws salt into Hijira's eyes, claiming to banish spirits, and chases them off with weapons. Panicked, they tie her to a tree and flee. Embarrassed, they admit their mistake to Hatanaka. Nudo tries to comfort Mujina, but Mujina dismisses him irritably. Next, Ekiseim and Meizuka also fail their task. Hatanaka announces Sano's turn and tells him to take Haruaki along. Haruaki, eager, agrees while Sano protests, questioning Haruaki's involvement. During their outing, Haruaki asks Sano why he avoids using yokai magic. Sano explains he struggles to control it and recalls a past incident when his powers went out of control. Sano spots a man walking a dog and cuts the leash, sending the dog racing toward Haruaki. Haruaki runs but trips into a bike and the dog bites him, refusing to let go. Disheveled, Haruaki stumbles near a woman, accidentally scaring her into screaming. Sano proudly claims he has completed the scare training, but Haruaki retorts, pointing out that he is the one who scared people, not Sano. Hatanaka arrives and tells Sano to scare people without causing harm. Sano responds by magically stripping Haruaki and Hatanaka in the street of their clothes to frighten a passing girl. He insists no one was hurt. Outraged, the teachers protest, arguing that their pride and dignity were hurt. The director approaches Haruaki, asking to begin filming his daily routine. Haruaki requests that any embarrassing footage be removed. Haruaki then tells the director how he cares about the mandragora and feeds them. He also introduces the director to his pet mandragoras. Meanwhile, the students secretly plot to better his image. They disguise themselves as bandits, planning that Haruaki will confront them and his image will seem better on TV. Haruaki tries to correct their behavior, saying their antics are inappropriate. Haruaki sternly warns the students that their disobedience will lead to serious consequences. The students quickly apologize. The director, impressed, appreciates his ability to unexpectedly tame the troublesome group. Just then, Mizuka informs Haruaki that one of the mandragoras he cares for is missing. Worried, Haruaki asks where it might be, but before anyone can answer, he spots the mandragora falling from a high ledge in the schoolyard. Without hesitation, Haruaki leaps after it, risking his life. Just as he falls, Sano grabs him in time. The other students grab Sano, and when they all are unable to handle the weight, the ad rushes to help, saving them. Grateful for the ad's help, the students express their thanks. Sano, still shaken by the close call, mutters that Haruaki will be the death of him. Haruaki, with a small smile, simply thanks him. The next day, Haruaki eagerly watches his interview on the program and asks his students for their opinions. To his disappointment, their reactions are less enthusiastic than he had hoped. Despite this, he shares that the episode received very positive reviews. Just then, his phone rings and he sees it's his mother calling. Greeting her warmly, Haruaki listens as she makes a request for him to come home for a festival at the end of the week. Haruaki, curious, assures her he will. Overhearing the conversation, the students begin whispering among themselves, quickly plotting ways to visit Haruaki's home without him noticing. Haruaki heads to his mother's house for the festival as planned, but Sano calls to reveal that he and other students are on the same route. Alarmed, Haruaki worries his students might uncover his family's secrets. Sano offers to help by stalling them with tourist stops and claiming he lost Haruaki's address. Amused, Haruaki teases Sano for suddenly caring, but Sano, irritated, threatens to bring the students directly to him instead. While having lunch at the station, the group notices two young men harassing Zashiki. She firmly rejects them and calls for help, but Hijita laughs, frustrating her further. She demands he intervene, and Sano orders him to step up. Before Hijita can act, a man resembling Haruaki appears, defending Zashiki and teasing the harassers to find someone else to bother. The students are stunned by the resemblance, wondering if he could be Haruaki. Mizuka, skeptical because of the man's casual attire, tests him by attacking. The lookalike, confused, falls and asks what's going on. At that moment, Haruaki arrives, rushing to Sano and hugging him, apologizing for their earlier banter. Recognizing the lookalike, Haruaki introduces him as his brother Amaki, who is equally surprised to see Haruaki with students. The group piles into a car to head to Haruaki's house. Sano remarks that Haruaki never mentioned having a twin, prompting a formal introduction of Amaki to the students. When Mizuka asks why Amaki seems upset, Sashiki scolds him, reminding him he just attacked Amaki. At Haruaki's house, his father excitedly rushes out to greet him. Haruaki, trying to keep his family's identity a secret, nudges his father playfully, joking that he's just a harmless ghost. Shortly after, Haruaki's mother appears, noticing the students. Haruaki discreetly asks her for a drink and quietly mentions he hasn't told the students their home is a shrine, asking her to keep it a secret. She warmly welcomes everyone inside. Sano, noticing Haruaki's father still lying on the ground, points it out, but Haruaki's mother reassures them he's just a ghost who's been with the family for ages. Inside, she serves drinks and expresses her happiness of seeing Haruaki, the people outside their family. Curious, Mizuka asks what Haruaki was like as a child. His mother shares a funny story about Haruaki's first steps, recalling how he toddled after a girl's uniform blown away by the wind to return it. When Haruaki's father tries to join the group, his mother playfully blocks him and turns to the students, asking about Haruaki's behavior. They share lighthearted stories, reassuring her they enjoy having him as their teacher. Amaki enters, casually mentioning a program their mother loves, prompting her to rush off to watch it. Once she's gone, Amaki surprises everyone by suggesting the students leave, claiming they don't belong in Harueki's world. Embarrassed, Harueki confronts him, protesting his treatment of the students. Amaki firmly closes the door and pulls Harueki aside for a private conversation. Outside, Sano mentions he has a gift for Harueki, a set of uniforms, and wants to hand it over. Overhearing this, Harueki reopens the door to call the students back, but Sano slyly shuts it from outside, leaving Harueki and Amaki alone. Harueki argues with Amaki, frustrated by his overprotectiveness. Amaki defensively explains he's worried for Harueki, believing it's better for him to keep distance from the school and its chaos. Before the argument escalates, Hijira and Meizuka use their powers to break into the room, startling Amaki so much that he faints. They quickly carry him to a couch. Harueki's mother apologizes for Amaki's behavior, explaining he's always been fiercely protective of Harueki. As kids, Amaki would go to great lengths to shield him from perceived threats. Lightening the mood, she asks the students to help set up for the upcoming festival. Later, they reach the festival site and find rows of stalls lined up. Harueki points out some shooting games, but the students comment that the prizes don't seem worth the effort. Mizuka jokingly asks Sano for creative ideas to win, and Sano suggests using Harueki as a new target. Hijira reassures Harueki that he'd only throw mud, insisting it wouldn't hurt. Toshiki takes aim playfully, and her shot lands perfectly. Harueki complains, and the group bursts into laughter. Harueki reminds the students they are surrounded by regular people and must not use their powers. Meanwhile, Amaki sits with Harueki and Sano. Harueki offers to get them some food, and Sano requests several items, surprising Amaki with his large appetite. Amaki remarks that if he had Harueki's ability to repel spirits, he would have driven them all away by now. Sano, curious, asks why Amaki doesn't share this power with his brother. Amaki explains that Harueki's gift is inherited but isn't passed down to all family members, and it has weakened over generations. Amaki shares a story about Harueki's exceptional power. He recalls a past incident when their father accidentally opened a door containing ghouls, one of which sought to capture souls. Cornered by the spirit, Amaki and their father faced imminent danger until Harueki arrived at the door. Harueki unknowingly unleashed his latent power, dispelling the ghoul and saving them. Amaki explains that he gave Harueki a blue bead bracelet to help regulate his immense but hard-to-control powers. However, despite his potential, Amaki remains protective and prefers that Harueki stay away from the school and its dangers. Sano reassures Amaki, promising to protect Harueki and handle any threats that may arise. Feeling comforted, Amaki agrees to trust Sano. Sano, however, insists that Harueki should also be trusted and encouraged in his role as a teacher. Overhearing this, Harueki feels deeply touched and rushes to hug Sano, accidentally tackling him into a nearby play pool. Filled with emotion, Harueki vows to work hard to become a great teacher. Embarrassed, Sano binds Harueki, throws him into the water, and gives him a small zap in return. Later, they head to the train station, where his mother bids farewell to Harueki and his friends. Before they board, Amaki approaches Sano and asks him to take good care of Harueki. Listening to the hooter, the group hurries onto the train. Amaki chases after them, trying to shout something important, but the door is closed before he can deliver his message. Harueki thinks Amaki is giving him well wishes and feels overjoyed as the train pulls away. They don't know that Amaki was actually trying to tell them they had boarded the wrong train. The next day, Mizuka stands atop a rapidly moving rock with a human face, speeding through the school grounds. Harueki and two students chase after it. Harueki manages to grab hold of the rock but cannot stop its momentum, leading to a massive crash into one of the classrooms. Later, Harueki, Sano, and a student named Kurahashi walk together, discussing the upcoming sports day. Harueki expresses concern about how challenging it might be. Sano doubts it will go smoothly, while Kurahashi humorously imagines Harueki giving a lesson naked as punishment. Sano quips that such a sight would be more of a punishment for them instead. In the schoolyard, the principal announces the rules for sports day, stating that the losing class's teacher will not receive their salary. The teachers protest in shock, while the students grow anxious. Harueki, however, seems unconcerned, prompting the principal to add a twist. He declares that if Harueki's class loses, Harueki will have to teach for a full day wearing only red underwear. Embarrassed, Harueki pleads for mercy, accusing the principal of being anti-human. Miki reassures Harueki, telling him not to worry, and that his main task will be to collect and review the scavenger hunt papers. Harueki reads through the event list. The scavenger hunt relay is first, followed by Mandragora throwing, Jiminiwa rolling, horseback battle, human tower, and the final sprinter. Realizing the importance of preparation, Harueki declares he will personally lead the scavenger hunt. Miki asks which students will participate from Harueki's class, and Harueki names Zashiki, Mizuka, and Hijita. The scavenger hunt relay begins, and Mizuka takes the first turn for his class. Transforming into a large, athletic figure, Mizuka quickly overtakes other participants and grabs the first paper. Returning to his usual form, he reads the clue, transforms again, and rushes back to his friends. His sudden appearance startles them, causing them to scatter. Mizuka lifts Sano, explaining that the paper instructed him to find his best friend, which for him is Sano. He sprints to the next point and hands the baton to Zashiki, who immediately takes off running. Zashiki continues the race, competing against a fast runner from another class. Despite the tough competition, she outpaces her opponent and reaches the next area where the papers are located. Picking one that reads, Sacred Sword of the Volcano, she transforms into a blazing flame, thrilled by the challenge. Everyone watches in amazement as she dashes toward a nearby volcano to retrieve the sword. Meanwhile, Miki reminds Haruaki to collect the papers from the students who participated in the race. Haruaki approaches Mizuka, who explains that his paper read Best Friend, which is why he chose Sano. Mizuka asks to keep the paper as a memory and Haruaki agrees. Shortly after, Haruaki approaches another student. The student claims he lost his paper. He had thrown it away because it read Secret Crush. The paper ends up landing on Mizuka, who complains about being hit with trash. Annoyed, he decides to keep the paper until he can dispose of it properly. Hijita waits for Zashiki to return and hand him the baton so he can continue the race. When she finally returns, she is holding the sacred sword. Surprised, Hijita asks where it came from, and Zashiki explains that it belongs to her and could even be sold if needed. She urges Hijita to run quickly, warning him to avoid delays since they cannot afford to lose. Hijita runs while Zashiki hands her paper to Haruaki. Hijita reaches the next checkpoint and worries his paper might read Secret Love, but instead it says, Your secret dislike in class. He freezes, unsure of how to proceed, as his friends urge him to keep moving. Hijita hesitates, not wanting to offend anyone in his class. He considers naming one of the girls, but fears they might hold a grudge. He rules out Sano and Mizuka because of their close bond and thinks of Mudu and others, but quickly dismisses them as well. Finally, he considers Zashiki, reasoning she might understand his situation. However, being close to his family, he worries she might tell his mother, leading to trouble at home. Noticing his hesitation, Mizuka waves at Hijita and shows a paper. Desperate, Hijita runs over and pleads for the paper. Mizuka, holding the best friend paper, instead gives him the discarded one. Relieved, Hijita grabs it and asks where to find Sano. Mizuka directs him to the bathroom. Hijita hurries there, grabs Sano, and continues the race, drawing cheers from the students. His final sprint allows him to overtake the competition, securing first place for his team. Haruaki, overjoyed, celebrates with the students and even hugs Hijita. After the victory, Sano asks to see the paper to confirm what it said. Hijita encourages him, and when Sano opens it, everyone is shocked. Expecting Best Friend, the paper instead reads Secret Crush. Haruaki tries to lighten the mood, saying the win is what matters, but Sano, annoyed and embarrassed, punches him. Hijita apologizes, telling Sano not to worry since he also felt embarrassed. Sano, still irritated, tells Hijita they should just stay friends, leaving Hijita feeling both angry and foolish. The group moves to the javelin throwing event. Haruaki asks Miki if they are really expected to throw javelins, and Miki warns him to behave or risk being hit by one. When the results are announced, Class 1 takes first place, causing Haruaki to tear up. Miki, wiping his tears, reminds Haruaki he had warned about this outcome. Haruaki replies he should have been warned sooner. Two students from his class approach with a strategy for the upcoming horseback battle, asking Haruaki to review it. Haruaki, excited, discusses the details but notices Miki observing. Haruaki tells Miki he cannot look at the plan since he is not part of their team. Miki laughs, saying their strategy is easy to guess, but decides to focus on his own team. The second stage of challenges begins, and each class splits into 5 teams. Each team has a rider wearing a forehead band riding on another member with 2 assisting. Teams must collect as many bands as possible, and the class with the most wins. Daidara, leading one team, transforms into a giant form and protects his team by keeping them in his mouth. Sano leads another team with Mizuka riding on him. Mizuka uses his magical transformation to quickly gather multiple bands but rushes and falls off Sano, leading to their elimination. This setback makes the rest of the team anxious. Nudo, leading another team, reminds his members of Haruaki's advice to stay calm, avoid running away, and draw the enemy in until the right moment. Following this plan, they manage to defeat an opposing team. Soon, other teams try to surround them, but Hijita provides reinforcements with his earth magic. Hijita, riding the mermaid ghoul Maeda, struggles as Maeda attempts to outmaneuver their opponents with speed. Hijita becomes dizzy from the rapid movement. However, as opponents close in, their team continues using magic effectively. Maeda instructs Hijita to throw mud balls, but Hijita, overwhelmed and pale, refuses. Suddenly, he vomits on everyone around him, causing chaos. The mishap not only costs them the battle, but leaves Hijita exhausted and Maeda collapsed. Their team is disqualified. Haruaki, visibly frustrated, shares his disappointment with Miki and Hatanaka. They discuss the outcome and note that only 2 teams remain, one led by Daidara, standing immobile with his team in his mouth, and another by Kuden, who avoids combat by flying. Miki steps closer to Hatanaka, commenting that the competition will end in a few minutes. Hatanaka grins, predicting the third-year team will secure the last spot. Their laughter stops abruptly when the school director appears behind them, overhearing their conversation. He informs them there's another third-year team they haven't accounted for. Just then, Zashiki emerges carrying a large collection of batemans. Haruaki and Hatanaka are stunned. Hatanaka, puzzled, admits he thought she had been in Daidara's mouth all along. Haruaki explains that Zashiki's yokai magic allows her to remain invisible to everyone. While the others were distracted by the chaos of battle, Zashiki and her team disappeared from view and quietly gathered treasures unnoticed. Haruaki, clearly proud, asks what they think of her performance. The school director reflects on Haruaki's ability to manage the powers of his students while also earning their trust and cooperation. Later, Haruaki and Sano review the standings. Sano points out that their team is now in third place overall, but reminds Haruaki that the final race will determine everything. If they fail to win, it will finish in last place. Haruaki, confident, tells Sano not to worry. Hatanaka approaches Haruaki and asks if he brought the item from the gym. Realizing he forgot, Haruaki panics and rushes off, asking Sano to accompany him. At the gym, Haruaki apologizes for the trouble, but Sano tells him to focus and finish the task. Sano reminds him that he needs to prepare for the final stage of the competition. Haruaki reassures Sano, saying he is the key player for the final round. Sano, doubting his contributions so far, questions why Haruaki still trusts him. Haruaki admits it isn't always easy to trust, but remains confident. While they converse, a student accidentally bumps into the ladder Haruaki is standing on, causing him to fall. Haruaki collides with a stack of wooden planks which topple over. Sano quickly grabs Haruaki's leg to pull him away, but the planks overwhelm them both, and Sano ends up trapped. Hatanaka arrives, frustrated by the delay, and notices the commotion. Entering the gym, he sees Sano pinned under the planks and Haruaki frozen in fear. Hatanaka transforms his hand into a blade and begins cutting through the planks, urging Haruaki to help. Haruaki, paralyzed and crying, struggles to act. Hatanaka reminds him it's not the time for tears. Suddenly, Haruaki springs into action, lifting and throwing the planks aside. He then carries Sano in his arms and runs to the first aid station. The doctor examines Sano and determines he has a sprained ankle that will heal in a week. He advises Sano not to participate in the final round but permits him to spectate. When the doctor asks about the next competition, Muto explains it is an obstacle race involving 3 ghouls, an animal ghoul, an inanimate ghoul, and a humanoid ghoul, with Sano originally set to participate as a humanoid ghoul. The doctor offers to perform a quick surgery to heal Sano, holding an injection, but Haruaki interrupts, saying he has another solution. The final race begins with the Akasame transforming into a cat to compete alongside other animal competitors. Akasame sprints toward the first obstacle, a wooden climb. The wood is coated with a substance that makes cats feel drowsy, causing Akasame to relax. Sano, watching from the sidelines, shouts to remind Akasame the wood is the same material that injured his foot earlier. Jolted awake, Akasame uses his sharp claws to shred the wood into pieces and continues the race. Just as competitors advance, they face distractions placed along the course. Many fall victim to these temptations, but Akasame resists and dashes ahead at full speed, successfully handing the sash to the next runner, Yanagita the paper ghoul. While others remain stuck, Yanagita skillfully dodges ground traps and reaches the wind barriers alongside another competitor. The wind barriers attempt to disrupt them, slowing their progress. Yanagita uses a chemical explosive to counter the winds, forcing the barriers to retreat, though it costs him 1 point. The explosion clears the path, but also allows other competitors to surge ahead. Despite this setback, Yanagita presses on and successfully hands the sash to Haruaki, who steps in to replace Sano. Haruaki sprints forward, blaming himself for Sano's injury and determined to make amends. He overtakes several competitors and reaches the high jump box, a challenging obstacle for him as a human. Unlike his ghoul competitors, Haruaki struggles and his team begins losing hope, believing he cannot complete the jump. Hijita asks what they should do, and Sano reveals Haruaki has latent ghoul powers that could help him, though activating them is risky. Akasame volunteers to assist, recalling how Haruaki once helped him with schoolwork. The rest of the team joins in to support Haruaki. The school principal appears beside Sano, questioning if he plans to let Haruaki use his powers. Sano hesitates, suggesting they wait and see what happens. Other teachers arrive to watch as Haruaki repeatedly struggles with the jump, doubting his ability but refusing to quit. Just as Haruaki begins to lose hope, his students appear wearing his favorite school uniforms to cheer him on. The crowd laughs, mocking their inappropriate attire for a sports event, but their support lifts Haruaki's spirits. Drawing strength from their encouragement, Haruaki sprints, leaps, and touches the top of the box before landing back on the ground. The crowd, including students, teachers, and the principal, is stunned. Haruaki continues through the remaining obstacles, swimming, running across stones, and jumping over fire. He steadily closes the gap between himself and the lead runner, ultimately overtaking them and winning the race, securing victory for his team. Overjoyed, Haruaki celebrates with his teammates, taking their photos and sharing the moment with the crowd. The celebrations are interrupted when Sano punches Haruaki in the face, leaving him bleeding. Shocked, Haruaki asks why, but Sano doesn't reply. Instead, Mizuka runs up to Haruaki, hugging him and congratulating him on the win, pointing out that the other competitors are still finishing the course. Back at school, Haruaki resumes teaching while wearing nothing but a red underwear as punishment from the principal for his antics during the race. Haruaki laments his predicament, saying this is how his efforts have ended. Nudo teases him, calling him a complete pervert and adding that the principal has gathered all the misfits into their class. Frustrated, Haruaki asks Nudo to stop calling him a pervert and suggests being called charming instead, but Nudo refuses angrily. Hijita approaches Haruaki and suggests celebrating their victory with some drinks. Hesitant, Haruaki asks if he will have to pay for everyone. Hijita confirms, saying it is customary for the teacher to treat their students on such occasions. Just as they leave the classroom, Haruaki sighs, realizing that while he avoided losing his salary to the principal, he is about to spend a significant amount on his students. Sano and Mizuka collapse under the mountain of gifts given to Sano for his birthday. Meanwhile, Momo watches from a distance as Sano eagerly unwraps his presents. While she observes, Haruaki approaches her from behind and asks what she's doing. Startled, Momo bolts away, leaving Haruaki puzzled and commenting that she makes him feel like a threat. Suddenly, Haruaki is ambushed and drugged by an unknown figure, collapsing to the floor. Later, just as the class settles, Haruaki storms in, angrily demanding everyone take their seats. Akasane sarcastically comments on Haruaki's mood, and Mizuka notices something unusual. He claims it is Haruaki's doppelganger, Amaki, in the classroom. Sano quickly drags Amaki outside, calling Hijita and Zashiki join them. Sano questions why Amaki traveled such a long way to visit, while Mizuka mockingly suggests Amaki is overly concerned about Haruaki. Hijita asks where Haruaki is, and Amaki admits he locked Haruaki in the restroom, leaving only a school uniform behind. Inside the restroom, Haruaki struggles with his restraints, shouting for help. Spotting the uniform beside him, he feels oddly pleased since he likes it. Sano dismisses concerns about Haruaki's predicament, believing he'll manage with the uniform. However, he reprimands Amaki for disregarding his advice from their last meeting. Amaki explains he came to check on Haruaki's performance and ensure he's fulfilling his duties. He pleads with the group to let him impersonate Haruaki for the day, insisting no one else at the school would notice. Back in the classroom, the group introduces Amaki as Haruaki, claiming he lost his memory. Sano mentions that Haruaki's behavior and speech have changed slightly since the incident. Later, Yutagawa enters, apologizing for being late, explaining she had been rescuing a cat from thieves. Amaki reassures her and invites her to sit. Just as Yutagawa settles in, she suddenly transforms into a skeleton. Yuta comments on the bizarre transformation, and Yutagawa explains it happened due to the effort she exerted while running. Amaki faints from the shock, unaccustomed to dealing with ghouls. After recovering, he attributes his fainting to lingering effects of an earlier incident and urges the class to continue. Momo brings out a winter uniform that Haruaki loves, hoping it will jog his memory. To everyone's surprise, it doesn't affect their teacher. This prompts the students to suggest medical intervention. Later, Amaki, Sano, Mizuka, and Hijita gather in the restroom. Hijita urges Amaki to better imitate Haruaki's behavior. Amaki admits he never liked school uniforms until now. Just then, Yanajira arrives and jokes about their meeting in the restroom. Hijita confronts him, warning against introducing any new concoctions. Yanajira reveals he has created a potion in the chemistry club, claiming it will restore Haruaki's memory. Amaki expresses doubt. Confidently, Yanajira admits he is not an expert, but argues that modern technology allows ghouls to access any knowledge they need. Declaring his love for science, he expresses determination to become the first ghoul ever to win a Nobel Prize. Other students, including Akasane and Nudo, express concern for Amaki. Yanajira presents a potion he claims can restore memory, while the Ghoul twins bring photo books that Amaki likes, hoping they will help. Before the twins can proceed, Hatanaka and Miki intervene, confiscating the books and promising to discipline them. They then check on Amaki. Even the mandragoras that Haruaki cares for come for him. Amaki, surprised by the affection others show toward Haruaki, tells Sano he will leave and requests that the day's events remain a secret from Haruaki. Later, Sano unlocks the restroom door for Haruaki, who bursts out overjoyed. However, his clumsy exit irritates Sano, who hits him lightly and tells him to stay away. Haruaki later encounters Momo and apologizes for scaring her earlier. Momo denies being frightened, but her ghoul nature betrays her when a secondary mouth on the back of her head insults Haruaki, calling him an idiot, which embarrasses her deeply. Haruaki reassures her, saying it is not her fault, and asks if she plans to give Sano a gift. The secondary mouth interrupts again, but Haruaki guesses that Momo has prepared a gift for Sano to thank him for helping her during a competition when Hijita accidentally threw up on her. Yanajira suddenly appears, overhearing their conversation, and teases Momo about the situation. He offers her a perfume he claims will enhance her femininity. Yanagita sprays the perfume on them, but Haruaki immediately comments that it smells like a fish with a human face. Yanagita admits he forgot to include an ingredient to remove waste from the formula, but defends himself by saying he cannot smell since he lacks a nose. Frustrated, Haruaki questions why Yanagita creates perfumes if he cannot smell them. Later, Hijita and Yudo join the scene. Noticing the strange scent, Hijita approaches Momo, takes her hands, and tells her she looks beautiful, expressing newfound affection for her. Momo's second mouth mocks Hijita, doubting his sincerity because of his tendency to vomit. Undeterred, Hijita confesses his feelings, leaving Momo embarrassed. Yudo tries to pull Hijita away, but other male students enchanted by Yanagita's perfume surround Momo. Yudo, Momo, and Haruaki flee. Yanagita explains that the perfume only affects ghouls, leaving Haruaki immune. Trapped at the hallway's end, Haruaki calls for Sano, who returns and knocks down the pursuers. Sano tries using his magic, but accidentally worsens the chaos by tearing students' clothes. Yanagita suggests washing off the perfume, but there's no water nearby. Haruaki summons mandragoras, who bring a container of water. Seno carries Momo and jumps in, neutralizing the perfume. The enchanted students return to normal, shocked to find themselves without clothes. Momo thanks Sano and gives him a gift, but it turns out to be women's underwear. Embarrassed, she explains it was a mistake. Sano accepts her apology and vows to handle the teasing students, leaving Momo touched by his kindness. Later, the students visit a public bath due to their dorm's water supply issues. On the girl's side, Momo whispers something about Sano to Zashiki, but Zashiki repeats it aloud, causing her embarrassment. Zashiki then teases Yutagawa about her rumored crush on Yudo. Flustered, Yutagawa denies it and covers Zashiki's mouth to stop her from talking. In the men's bath, Hijita remarks on Haruaki's feet size and Meizuka expresses envy over Haruaki's height. The girls overhear and misinterpret it, thinking they are talking about his banana. Zashiki attempts to peek into the men's bath with Momo's help. Irritated by the behaviors of other girls, Yutagawa accidentally transforms into her skeletal form, causing a scare and inadvertently glimpsing into the men's bath. Yudo notices her and Yutagawa awkwardly claims she was startled by a mouse. The boys overhear the girls' comments and confront them after the bath, warning them against comparing or judging. Yudo and Haruaki walk away, leaving the girls feeling guilty. Hatanaka, exhausted, walks through the school corridor when a black feather falls before him, signaling bad news. Just as he pauses, a voice calls his name, and the air fills with unsettling black feathers. Meanwhile, Haruaki and Miki watch a news report about a creature abducting animal ghouls, stripping them of fur and returning them distressed. Some of these animals are being treated at Dr. Takahashi's clinic. Haruaki speculates that a malicious ghoul is responsible and Miki agrees. Haruaki then teases Miki about wasting time on women, but Miki defensively insists he has never dated, a claim Haruaki admits applies to himself as well. Their banter is interrupted by Sano, who asks about Meizuka, and Haruaki mentions he should be in Hatanaka's class. However, concerning news arrives, Hatanaka hasn't shown up for class, which is unusual. Just as they discuss, a breaking news report details another ghoul attack, this time in broad daylight, involving 2 abductions. Alarmed, Sano looks outside and notices the mandragoras swaying unnaturally. The mandragoras deliver troubling news. The yokai has captured both Meizuka and Hatanaka, locking them in a cage and taking them away. Miki urges the students to alert the police immediately. Meanwhile, Akisame and Hatanaka wake up inside a cage surrounded by other captured ghouls. The defeated creatures look unable to escape. Hatanaka tries to rouse Meizuka, who groggily apologizes for his lack of attention in class. Observing the eerie surroundings, they realize they are no longer at the school. Black feathers rain down again and 3 figures emerge, introducing themselves as the Karasu Tengo Gang, a self-proclaimed villain group. Meizuka mocks their name, frustrating their leader, who laments his sleepless efforts to come up with it. One member monitoring security cameras announces that Sano, Miki, and Haruaki are approaching. The leader complains about not having had the chance to cut their prisoner's hair yet. Outside, Haruaki, Sano, and Miki arrive at the location, guided by mandragoras. Sano comments on the stereotypical villain hideout appearance. Haruaki entrusts his 1 mandragora to Sano and Miki each, urging them to keep it safe while he moves ahead. The mandragora accompanying Miki perches on his head, irritating him. Miki tries to remove it, but the plant mocks him for holding it too tightly. Frustrated, Miki complains only to realize Haruaki and Sano have already moved on. The mandragora accuses him of harassment. Embarrassed and annoyed, Miki loudly denies any inappropriate relationships. His outburst draws the attention of nearby women, leaving him flustered. Just as the women approach, Miki panics, tosses the mandragora aside, and flees. Hearing the noise, Sano assumes someone from their group has been captured. His mandragora remarks they might have strayed off course, but Sano dismisses it, insisting they are on the right track. Suddenly, multiple clones of Haruaki appear, surrounding and clinging to Sano. He accuses Haruaki of having mysterious replication ability, suspecting he may not be entirely human. Inside the hideout, the Karasu Tengo leader celebrates their supposed victory, proudly declaring they have captured 2 strong targets and trapped them. One of his subordinates prepares a sharp tool to cut the fur of animal ghouls, explaining they sell it online to wealthy buyers for profit. Hatanaka, still trapped, questions the strange obsession, while Mezuka mocks the scheme as pathetic. When a villain moves to cut his hair, Mezuka fiercely protests and blames Hatanaka for their capture. Frustrated, the villain decides to start with Hatanaka instead. The leader, watching surveillance cameras, notices Haruaki wandering nearby and orders his team to intercept him. Haruaki, lost and disheartened, begins to tear up. His Mandragora companion reassures him, hearing distant screams and pointing him toward a faint light in the distance. Following the light, Haruaki arrives at a convenience store where 2 middle school boys are loitering. Intimidated, he hesitates, fearing they might be aggressive. The Mandragora smacks Haruaki, urging him to be brave and reminding him of his duties. Gathering his courage, Haruaki approaches the boys, asking them to move as they block the entrance. The boys mock him. Frustrated, Haruaki uses his exorcist powers to force them to leave. To his shock, the boys transform into tree trunks, and just like this, the women near Mickey and the clones surrounding Sano also transform into mere tree trunks. The Mandragora explains that these trunks were likely under a ghoul's spell, which has turned them into manifestations of the greatest fears of the person near them. From above, the feathered villain descends, intrigued by Haruaki's apparent ability to break the spell. He mocks Haruaki, questioning his strength. Haruaki lies, claiming to be a chemical worker investigating a leak at a nearby factory. The villain laughs, pointing out the building is a candy warehouse, exposing his bluff. Embarrassed, Haruaki apologizes awkwardly. The feathered villain presses further, asking if Haruaki is a teacher at the Ghoul School. Haruaki refuses to confirm. The villain grabs Haruaki and lifts him into the air. Before anything escalates, the Karasu Tengo leader intervenes, ordering the villain to release Haruaki. The leader confidently approaches, revealing that he recognizes Haruaki and knows about his exorcist abilities. Elsewhere, a third villain roams the area, muttering and searching. Behind a crate, Hatanaka, Mezuka, and Akisame are whispering about their narrow escape. They credit Hatanaka, who had managed to cut through the cage and free them before their fur could be taken. Akisame expresses relief but notes that many animals have already fled, leaving them behind. Mezuka suggests that if caught again, the villains might do more than shave their fur. They could cook and eat them. Just then, the villain appears and captures Mezuka, declaring victory. Mezuka cries out for Sano, prompting the villain to ask who Sano is. Mezuka describes Sano as his wonderful friend, and Sano suddenly appears, striking the villain and freeing Mezuka. Mickey arrives shortly after, relieved to see everyone safe. Mezuka, frightened, hugs Sano tightly. The villain regains consciousness and, using his powers, hurls a stone that transforms into a massive boulder, rolling toward the group. Sano, Mickey, and the others flee, with Sano marveling at the bizarre magic. The winged villain descends, offering a sinister deal, their lives in exchange for surrendering their companions. Sano refuses and keeps running. Mickey, desperate, jokingly suggests surrendering, which irritates Akisame, who mocks Mickey for his tendencies. Enraged, Mickey halts the boulder to prove his strength. The winged villain then summons a larger barrage of boulders. Mickey tries to fend them off, but is overwhelmed. Meanwhile, the villain leader questions Haruaki's lineage and is intrigued when Haruaki confirms he is the grandson of the Great Abe. The leader, delighted, tries to persuade Haruaki to join their side, urging him to abandon the school and use his powers for evil. Before Haruaki can respond, the school principal appears, interrupting the conversation. The principal firmly confronts the villain about targeting his school's teachers and exploiting them for his schemes. The principal demands the villain leader stop his petty crimes, asserting it is time to end his pursuits. The villain leader defiantly refuses, claiming this life was his choice and accusing the principal of being more similar to him than he would admit. Meanwhile, Sano and Mickey are cornered by the winged villain with no apparent escape. The villain taunts them, but Sano refuses to surrender. He strategically uses his magic to collapse the stones, trapping Haruaki, the principal, and 2 villains under the rubble. The third villain panics and begins freeing his comrades, urging them to retreat. Haruaki insists they capture the villains before they escape. The fleeing villains stumble into a muddy quagmire, and 2 suggest abandoning their comrade. However, the third, furious, pulls them into the mud, refusing to be left behind. Hijira arrives with the rest of the students, announcing the authorities are on their way. In desperation, one of the villains casts a spell, fleeing mud everywhere and escaping with his team. While they flee, the villains admit their pursuers are far more dangerous than they could have imagined. On a sweltering summer day, Class 2 to 3 participates in a school camp on the beach. However, Hatanaka reminds the students that their spooky exam will follow the camp. He reveals that the exam will take place in the old Haki Academy building, where they will stay overnight. The class is introduced to the concept of spookyology, a practical training class designed to hone their yokai powers in eerie environments. Inside the seemingly ominous building, Haruaki remarks that it feels like a yokai could jump out at any moment, while Mudo notes that the building is surprisingly clean for its age, Another student mentions that Class 1 used it for their school camp the previous week, recalling how gloomy they seemed afterward. The students are told they'll be sleeping in the classrooms, which Harueki finds unexpectedly exciting. Hatanaka informs them that the only restroom is located on the far side of the courtyard, adding to the eerie atmosphere. Later, Harueki tries to strike up a casual conversation with the students, suggesting they have a boys' talk before going to bed. Sano questions why Harueki is so eager to mingle with the students. Harueki brushes it off and asks about their romantic experiences and encourages the idea of getting girlfriends over the summer. Hatanaka arrives there and reprimands Harueki for discussing romance with the students. He instructs everyone to sleep immediately. He warns that any students who stay up late might receive an unsettling goodnight kiss from Miki-sensei, effectively ensuring everyone quickly settles down for the night. Akase nervously approaches Nudo, asking if he needs to visit the bathroom and offering to accompany him, despite her fear of ghosts. Nudo teases her for being a yokai afraid of ghosts, but Akase insists that ghosts and yokai are entirely different, emphasizing that all beings, alive or not, share basic needs. Their banter is interrupted when Renju, a student with 4 arms, appears suddenly, startling them. She explains that Utagawa has not returned from the bathroom after more than an hour, urging them to join her in checking. At the bathroom, Akase reassures Nudo of her presence, but they soon notice Renju is missing. Assuming she's playing a trick, Nudo investigates and hears a toilet flush. Suddenly, ghostly hands appear from behind him. Moments later, Akase emerges, mentioning her relief at finding a litter box in the bathroom, but she senses something amiss. She realizes both Nudo and Renju have vanished and hears an eerie noise. Turning to investigate, she is horrified to see multiple feet hanging behind the stall doors. Frightened, Akase rushes to the teacher's room and informs Harueki about the disappearances. Moments later, Sano arrives with news of more missing students. Harueki, alarmed, realizes that the students in their class are vanishing one by one. 10 students, including Nudo and others, are already missing. Suddenly, Hatanaka's voice echoes through the speaker, revealing the truth. This is the Spookology exam. He explains that several Heiyaki Academy alumni are inside the building working to scare and capture the students. The goal is to find the one person holding the key to the outside door. If even one student retrieves the key and escapes, the entire class will pass. Akase, still shaken, asks what they are supposed to do. Hatanaka elaborates that the students must use their yokai powers and skills to evade capture and locate the key. Harueki asks for his role in the exam, and Hatanaka mockingly tells him to support his students as their teacher. Hijida and others joke that Harueki is only being pushed onto them because he is useless, while Kurahashi nervously questions the consequences of failure. Hatanaka calmly states that if everyone is caught or they fail to find the key, they will spend the first half of summer vacation in remedial classes. The students are dismayed but realize they have no choice. Hatanaka sets the time limit, declaring the exam will end at sunrise, and officially begins the Spookology final exam. The class splits into groups of 4 to search for the key. Akase, Sano, Fuji, and Harueki form Group 4 and begin their search on the 2nd floor. A yokai approaches to scare them, but Fuji freezes it with his freezing breath, neutralizing the threat. Meanwhile, Group 1 is on the 1st floor and is chased by animated skeletons and anatomical specimens. They flee to the infirmary, only to encounter the terrifying school doctor and his eerie nurses, who scare them into submission. An announcement reveals that Group 1 has fallen, leaving only 11 students. Group 2, led by Mizuka, explores the art room on the 3rd floor. They encounter a doppelganger of Yanagita. Unsure of who is real, they tie both versions up to figure it out. The group plans to burn the doppelganger, but the real Yanagita insists on using his potion instead. The potion causes an explosion, leading to the disqualification of Group 2. Now, only Groups 3 and 4 remain. Group 3, led by Hijida and Zashiki, faces an ox-cart yokai filled with skeletons. The yokai traps all the members, including Zashiki, and vanishes. Hijida, the only one left, vows to find the key, leaving only 5 students in the game. Group 4 continues searching the 2nd floor. They encounter Nudo, who claims he was hiding, but Harueki notices something off and alerts Sano. Moments later, Mouse Sensei appears with the key. Akase transforms into a cat to chase him but fails. Fuji freezes Mouse Sensei, but the key turns out to be a fake made of chocolate. Deciding to move to the 1st floor, Group 4 descends the stairs. Multiple hands emerge behind Sano, and Harueki spots a girl in a black uniform. Unable to control himself, Harueki behaves strangely, alarming the group, who cannot see the girl and question his odd behavior. The group runs as the hands chase them. Akase is grabbed, but Fuji rescues her. Soon after, Fuji is trapped in green jelly, and Akase tries to free him. The ox-cart yokai with skeletons attacks again, but Hijida arrives just in time, creating a mud puddle that traps the ox-cart and saves the group. As they are surrounded by yokai on all sides, the sun begins to rise and time is running out. They sprint toward the main gate, with Sano stopping briefly to reflect on all the events of the night. When they reach the gate, Sano declares that he has found the key. The others ask him how, and he grabs Haruaki, revealing that Haruaki has had the key all along. Haruaki pulls out the key, stating that they succeeded. He opens the gate, and the group steps outside. Akisame yells at Haruaki for not informing them earlier, but Sano explains that Haruaki had been dropping hints throughout the test. Akisame then confronts Nudo, suspecting he is not who he claims to be. She accuses him of being a fake since the real Nudo would never abandon his friends. The truth is revealed, Nudo is actually police officer Yamazaki, who had been undercover the entire time. Haruaki, exhausted from a series of chaotic home visits, recalls near-miss encounters with Renju's mom, Meida's pet Pochi, and Uda's little sister. Despite his fatigue, he rushes to Sano, who is carrying Mizuka, and persuades him to join the home visit to Mizuka's house. Arriving in a massive mansion, Haruaki is awestruck by its size. Mizuka downplays it, explaining that his family is large but not particularly prestigious. Guards warmly welcome Mizuka, but Haruaki nervously notes that they don't seem related by blood. Sano reassures him, calling them a unique big family. Suddenly, a swarm of Mizuka's short-statured siblings appears. One remarks if the hot one is the pervy teacher Mizuka mentioned, while another claims the hot one is Sano and he is Mizuka's best friend. Confusion arises as they tease each other about who's who. Haruaki marvels at the army of Mizukas. Mizuka introduces himself as the oldest sibling and explains he has over 30 younger brothers and sisters, but no siblings his age. The siblings proceed to introduce themselves one by one. Haruaki tries to remember their names, but gets all of them wrong except for one named Beans. Beans dismisses the mistake and invites them inside. Beans orders one of the bodyguards to properly welcome their guests, scolding them for standing idly. Mizuka then invites Haruaki and Sano inside, mentioning that his parents are waiting. Both Haruaki and Sano privately dread the upcoming meeting but follow Mizuka. Inside, Mizuka's parents warmly receive them. While seated, Mizuka's father directly addresses Haruaki, commenting on his reputation as a teacher and questioning whether a human like him can truly educate Mizuka and the other yokai. Mizuka protests, reminding his father that referring to Haruaki as just a human is disrespectful to both him and other humans. Haruaki silently agrees, feeling slighted. Acknowledging his mistake, Mizuka's father taps Mizuka on the head and apologizes for his comment. His wife lightly reprimands him for being too doting in front of their guests. Turning serious, Mizuka's father formally apologizes to Haruaki and expresses his concern for Mizuka and the students. He requests Haruaki's assurance that he will help the students in times of need. To gauge Haruaki's capability, he proposes a test to determine whether Haruaki is truly fit to be Mizuka's teacher. Mizuka casually mentions that his father tests the strength of teachers during home visits every year, leaving Haruaki incredulous at how such a detail could be forgotten. Sano asks about previous years, and Mizuka recalls that Miki, his teacher last year, was the only one who left unscathed. Curious, Haruaki wonders why, and Beans claims to know, whispering the reason into his ear. Moments later, Mizuka's father steps in with an ancient weapon, announcing that Haruaki must prove his worth as a teacher by fighting him. Shocked and reluctant, Haruaki tries to escape, but Mizuka's father chases him relentlessly around the house. Eventually, Haruaki is cornered, and Mizuka's father demands to know if he is done running. Watching from the sidelines, Sano considers Haruaki's exorcism powers, realizing that while they might allow Haruaki to win, exposing those abilities could cause even more resistance to his role as a teacher. Haruaki struggles internally but ultimately controls himself, slamming his fist into the ground in frustration, choosing not to reveal his powers. Mizuka's father declares Haruaki unworthy of teaching his son, citing his lack of strength. Haruaki, desperate, interrupts, asking why Miki passed the test so easily last year. When the father hesitates, Haruaki accuses him of favoritism, claiming it's because Miki's family owns an establishment in the red light district, which the father frequents. The accusation shocks everyone, and Mizuka's father furiously asks if Haruaki is trying to blackmail him. Haruaki, cornered and desperate, threatens to call Mizuka's mother to expose her husband's antics. Furious, Mizuka's father grabs Haruaki, accusing him of being an unmanly coward for resorting to such tactics. Haruaki defiantly admits to being fine with cowardice if it means protecting his students. He boldly declares that he is willing to use any underhanded trick necessary to ensure their safety, and begs to be acknowledged as Mizuka's teacher. Reluctantly, Mizuka's father concedes, warning Haruaki that if anything happens to his son, there will be severe consequences. Beams marvels at Haruaki's unorthodox approach, calling him a strange teacher. Mizuka's mother enters, noting the resolution, and turns her attention to her husband, questioning his trips to the red light district. Flustered, Mizuka's father apologizes and reverts to his animal form. Mizuka's mother formally entrusts her son to Haruaki, expressing confidence in his care. Beans, impressed by Haruaki's survival, teases him about her earlier prediction of his demise. Haruaki thanks Beans for her critical information, only for her to suddenly kiss him, announcing that she plans to make him her husband in the future. Sano, realizing Beans is a girl, watches as her father becomes enraged, accusing Haruaki of stealing her first kiss and vowing he won't leave alive. Haruaki, panicking, tries to explain that it was his first kiss too, but Bean's father demands to test Haruaki to see if he is worthy of becoming her husband. Haruaki denies any courtship, only to be further cornered when the father insists he cannot dump his daughter either. Haruaki, exasperated, runs as Bean's father chases him, shouting that he's done with home visits. Later, Haruaki is out with Miki, Hatanaka, and Mouse Sensei, observing their camaraderie with envy. Feeling excluded, he behaves childishly, expressing a sudden need to pee. Miki and Hatanaka recall a memory of a boy named Nagoya who resembled Haruaki. Nagoya, alongside Miki and Hatanaka, once helped a lost child retrieve a stuffed toy and reunite with his brother. The child gifted Nagoya an amulet as thanks. In the present, Hatanaka and Miki wonder about Nagoya's whereabouts. When Haruaki returns, he admits his jealousy over their friendship. Miki and Hatanaka assure him he can be their friend, lightening the mood and making Haruaki feel included. The students of class 2 to 3 are on a field trip to Tokyo. On the bus, Mezuka panics, claiming he has dropped something important. Sano casually remarks that it's good it wasn't any personal belonging, but Nuno quickly corrects him, pointing out that Mezuka has lost Haruaki. Sano calls Haruaki, asking him to explain his situation. Haruaki, lost and confused as he was swept away by a crowd of salarymen before boarding the bus, and is now on the subway, intending to catch up with the group via the Marunouchi line. However, a fellow commuter informs him he is actually on the Yamanote line. Realizing he is lost, Sano becomes frustrated. Before Sano can give instructions, Haruaki's phone dies, leaving the group without communication. The students inform Hatanaka of the situation. Yutagawa suggests Hatanaka proceed to the scheduled special lecture with the other classes, hoping Haruaki might turn up there. Hatanaka hesitates, unwilling to leave the students alone, but Mouse Sensei volunteers to accompany class 2 to 3, offering to oversee the search while Hatanaka continues with the plan. Mouse Sensei's true intention, however, is to enjoy sightseeing instead of attending the lecture. Hatanaka instructs Mouse Sensei to take full responsibility while reminding the students of the academy's off-campus rules. Avoid exposing yokai magic, conceal their identities as yokai, and ensure non-humanoid yokai are disguised. Mouse Sensei agrees and organizes a search for Haruaki using a network of rats to scour Tokyo's sewers. Despite Hijida's skepticism about searching the sewers, Mouse Sensei insists Haruaki might have confused the subway for the sewers. Hijida reluctantly participates, grumbling about the task while suspecting others might be sightseeing instead. Meanwhile, the other students explore Tokyo, enjoying the sights, chattering, and mischief. Sano, however, grows uneasy, sensing something ominous. Haruaki, exiting a train, accidentally drops his amulet, which is picked up by a man who recognizes him as the human teacher at Ghoul School. Discovering Haruaki is lost, the man offers to help, noting that Haruaki would never find his destination alone. He takes Haruaki to a diner and inquires about the amulet. Haruaki explains it was a gift from a child in Kyoto, and the man praises the amulet's protective qualities. When Haruaki stands, he accidentally bumps into a little girl ghoul dressed in red, causing it to fall. He quickly apologizes. The man advises Haruaki to return to his students, but Haruaki explains his phone battery is dead. They decide to buy a new one and head to a department store. On their way, Haruaki hears the store is on fire and recalls the little girl wearing red, identifying her as a disaster-bringing ghoul like Sashiki. He rushes to the burning building and spots the girl still inside, hiding in fear in an elevator. Ignoring the man's plea to leave her, Haruaki goes in, dispels the spell she caused, and rescues her. A sudden blast injures him, but he manages to use the new battery to call Sano, informing him of the situation. Sano scolds Haruaki for putting himself in danger, but the students quickly devise a plan to rescue him. Yuta uses his eye power to locate the store, and the group rushes to the scene. Inside, Haruaki struggles with the thick smoke and his injuries, but his amulet glows and a vision of the child who gave it to him appears. The apparition guides Haruaki and the girl to the roof. The students arrive just in time to save Haruaki and the girl, flying them to safety. However, as they escape, a ghoul police officer intercepts them and issues a citation for breaking safety protocols. That is it for today. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like the video, comment your thoughts, and subscribe for more adventures. See you next time.